We were just on the boat, and that's what it sounded like. The wind was just blowing, And then my white hat, it's a little dirty. It flew off my head and just went straight into the lake, And then we turned around. I went and grabbed it, pulled it out, and I'm like, you know what? It actually looks cleaner than it did before. So I thought that was good. Thank you, Jimmy. The wind was perfect there. You good? Were you hyperventilating a little bit?
I was trying to be the wind.
Well, I know you were, but I told you it was cool. Oh, jeez. So, all right, you got a funny story that you want to talk about?
Yes, I do. I do have a funny story. The funny story is kind of embarrassing, but in all honesty, it was more of an eye opener.
Okay.
And I have this new thing you have to do now. So after I'll tell you.
I have to do?
Everyone.
Oh.
Okay. So last Wednesday, I was very privileged to be able to go to my little sister Josephine's kindergarten graduation. Graduated kindergarten, off to first grade now.
Woohoo!
Yes. And so after the graduation, she took her cap and gown off and said, "Hey, Jimmy, let's run to the park." I was like, "Okay, we're going to the park." And so this is after graduation. I thought everything was done. Everything was all cool and breezy. So we go. And
breezy?
Yeah, breezy. Breezy.
Kind of like this weekend was.
And so I thought everything was fine. Graduation was over and everything. So my sister Josephine and her friend named Mackenzie, for the quick 6-year-old name shout out, we go to this park. And this park is huge. Just a very big park about a half a mile away from where the graduation was. We go, and next thing I know, I see Mackenzie's dad walk to me. He did not know who I was. And so he looked like he was in a panic. And I don't know why he looked like he was in a panic. I just thought, whatever.
I mean, because you kind of, yeah.
I think you're getting it. You're getting the story. And so anyway, we walk back, and unbeknownst to me, there was 15 to 20 parents staring out of windows, looking outside, just staring to figure out where Josephine and Mackenzie went. And I had this really bad thing go through my stomach saying, oh my gosh, they think I'm a pervert. They don't know who I am. They didn't know that this was Jimmy, Josephine's brother. They didn't know that I was a 20-year-old who was there for the graduation. They just thought, this guy's here to do some dirty work. And so I have this new thing that we all have to do now. If you're around kids at a function, you have to scream exactly who you are. For example, next time that happens to me, I'll have to say, Jimmy, Josephine's brother, right away. If you're there with me, you have to say, Cameron, Jimmy's friend, who's Josephine's brother. Scream it right away so nobody looks at you and goes, who's this man with facial hair around these two little kids?
Nobody's ever looked at me like that.
I've never had that happen either.
Like, I've never been in this situation where anyone would look at me like that, I guess. I don't know.
That's not my fault.
No,
it's not.
Supposed
to let the kids run around by themselves?
I mean, you have a younger sister, though. I don't. So I'm not really put in those situations. When I put in those situations, it's at family functions where we're at actually somebody's house. You know? I don't have to go to my cousin's kindergarten graduation. I don't have to go to that. I'll go to his actual graduation, sure. Right. So I'm just never in that situation.
Well, it was definitely weird. And, I mean, it was a weird thing to see. Like, I could be a dirty man. Like, I mean, I had no idea where I was coming from there.
What?
Like, it was weird. Like, everyone was staring at me like, oh, who is this? Who is this man? And then people had to tell him, like, oh, that's just Joey's brother.
Oh, my goodness.
And then, like, the whole rest of the day was kind of weird that I was there. It was an awkward 15 minutes. And then I left, and I got stares and everything. And so, it was a tough graduation for me. And I didn't even graduate. I already graduated high school. Like, I don't even need to be at anyone else's graduation. But, I was there for support, and it ended up being a scary moment.
We're going to talk to you guys a little bit about some NBA talk. We're going to go all over the league, and then Jimmy's got something that he wants to talk about for a little bit with Colin Kaepernick. We'll get at you after this. Really? They thought that you were a pervert?
I don't know if they thought it, but I got looks.
I'm sure you... I don't know, dude. Like, I want to say that I'm sure you did, but, like...
Well, it's an awkward scenario. Like, I'm 14 and a half years older than my sister, so I'm not quite old enough for them to go, of course that's her dad, and I'm quite not young enough for them to go, of course that's their brother.
Well, you could have had a child when you were 16.
I said 14.
I know.
So I could look older to look 16.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever. The point was, it was a very uncomfortable afternoon.
I guess so. All right, so a lot about the NBA has been going on. A lot of, I don't know how to explain it. It's just the draft coming up, but I'm really excited.
I mean, it's exciting to a T, but I mean, it's whatever.
It's whatever. Even with the new shakeup of the 76ers saying that they're going to get Fultz.
That is really interesting, but I don't know where they're going.
What do you mean?
I don't know why Boston would trade the first pick
Oh,
to number
yeah,
3.
no, I have no idea either.
I don't know what they're doing.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I thought for sure when I first read it, I thought the only way this is going to be a deal is if they somehow got somebody, like one of the names, like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, or someone like that, you know? Like, I thought maybe, this isn't a finalized thing. Maybe they got somebody like that and they just traded away that pick. But no, they just flip-flopped. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But whatever, you know, the 76ers, I think they're going to be cool. I think they're going to be pretty good. And I know where you're going with this.
We talked about this.
Yep.
They need more.
I think they need more chemistry and playing together for a little bit, you know?
I'll give you give them a year. Nothing's going to happen this year. Give them another year.
I agree with you. Nothing will happen.
If they do
this
more,
year.
it can be interesting.
Okay. So you're going to give them a chance.
I'm going to give them a chance after this year.
You're liking it a little bit more.
I like it if they do something with it.
It's a little crispier.
I need to see something.
Okay.
I need to see.
I agree.
No joke. I need to see maybe an 8th or 9th seed. Like just miss the playoffs or just make the playoffs.
Okay.
Being last in the league so long proves nothing to me.
Yeah, no, I totally.
It just proves you can be last in the league.
Exactly. I totally get what you're saying with that, and it makes sense. But I think that you heard the whole thing about the process and making sure that you lose for sure to get all these assets. Do you think that they're at the point where they feel like they got enough assets to be able to play in the future? I think they have to now.
I don't think it's based on players or assets. I think it's based on time. And this is 5-6 years now. Like, failing for a season, failing to end a season.
Exactly.
That takes a toll on fans and ownership.
Exactly.
When you've done it for longer than 2 years, I'll say. Because we can have stipulations on how long they've actually been trying to lose or how long they've actually just sucked.
Right.
But it's at the point now where it's time.
They have to start proving
something.
something.
Another reason I think it's time is because we talk about this so much. The Eastern Conference is so weak.
Oh, yeah.
You could make the playoffs just based on luck.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. This is if they're going to start proving that this is a process that was supposed to work and everything, it has to be this year. This year has to be the year where they're like, all right, buckle down, let's actually get to this. Totally agree with you.
Right.
They need to prove something this year. They need to prove that they are a team that maybe with a little more chemistry coming out the next year, following year, they'll be a good team.
But here's my problem with this whole NBA draft that I think you have a different take on than I do. I'm not really seeing anyone from this draft that's making me go, whoa, gotta have him. I'm just seeing people that are good, maybe great. I think 3 players are great in this draft. I think there's a lot of good players. I think there's a lot of maybe really good players. I think there's a lot of players that could help teams.
Yes.
But I'm not seeing anyone that's just making me go, whoa.
There are a lot of people that I'm looking at that I can see that I do like growing into a NBA player, like a good NBA player.
Right.
But I think this is a draft where it might take a couple of years. There's not going to be an instant impact player, but there are going to be a lot of players from this draft that are going to be, I think, superstars. Who? This is like an interesting draft. I like Markelle Fultz. I don't think he's going to be a real big, interesting impact player. I think
he's good.
I think he'll be a really good point guard.
Good.
Exactly. I think he'll be a really good point guard, and one of the things that's going to help with the 76ers is if he changes up his game a little bit and becomes like a Chris Paul type, where he's more of a facilitator, not really a shot taker and stuff like that.
Well, if you send him to the 76ers, he has 2 guys to pass the ball to right away.
Exactly.
So I see your point there.
Yes. So I could see huge potential with that. He's not going to be an outrageous scorer or anything like that. I don't know what it is. If Lonzo Ball does a similar route and maybe fixes that jump shot a tiny bit, like tweaks the stroke.
I don't think he's going to be that good.
And I think
it has nothing to do with his father.
Yeah, no, I get that.
It's because I think what people have to realize is that most young people need a couple years
Exactly.
to be great at what they're doing.
Yes.
That's period. That's just not sports.
That's why I want to say
you can't
5 years out.
You can't throw a 21, 22-year-old out into the world at whatever they're doing
Right.
and expect them to be amazing. For example, Steph Curry was not Steph Curry at 21.
Definitely
not.
not.
He was a good player.
Yes, he was.
And it took years of losing and trying for him to become Steph Curry.
Exactly. He had to tweak some
He
things.
fixed a lot.
Yeah, he was injury prone. He got healthier, He changed his game.
In this draft, I would worry about 3 people.
Okay.
Actually making an actual major difference, or as I like to say, great players.
Okay.
De'Aaron Fox.
Yep. I was just going to get to him. I like him a lot.
Markelle Fultz.
Yep.
I think those are the 2 most important.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Without question.
Actually, I want to throw a third person. If we're going to go for the most important, the top 3, I would say, for this draft, I want to throw Josh Jackson in there.
Josh Jackson was my number 3.
I love Josh Jackson.
I said
yes.
3 great. That was
there
my
we go.
number 3.
I like it.
Well, the only reason I think Josh Jackson is because he's a shooter.
I think he's one of those players that he has a lot of potential that he hasn't found yet, in my opinion.
Maybe. I mean, I would rather trust somebody coming from Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan State, Louisville, rather than another school. That sounds really selfish, but those guys are trained to become
NBA
good players.
Yeah.
NBA players. The other schools, I don't know. For example, Fultz came from Washington.
Right.
With the exception of Isaiah Thomas, who could you name that really came a standout star from Washington?
Does it have to be the men's player?
I mean, we're talking about men's basketball.
Okay.
So
then.
I think yes.
Yes. No, I can't.
No, but I mean, I'm very weird when it comes to stuff like that. I think if you want to draft someone, you need to look at the 6 schools of success.
You wouldn't throw Duke in that at all?
I would.
Okay.
Okay, my 6 schools would be University of Kentucky, Louisville,
Okay.
Duke, North Carolina, Kansas,
Yep.
and Michigan State.
Okay.
You can try to argue other ones, even right now.
I would think Michigan. I think you could
No.
put some Michigan players
Michigan's
in there because
risky.
they are a little risky. Yes.
That's the exact reason I didn't say UCLA. That's risky.
Oh no, I wouldn't take UCLA.
Yeah, that's close, but I call it the 6 schools of success
Right.
because it all has people. I don't know if this is a very accurate statistic, but this just in my mind, top 10 NBA draft talent every year.
No, yeah.
From at least 4 out of 6 of those.
It doesn't even have to be statistical. You see it every year. Somebody in the top 10 is drafted from at least 4 of those schools that you named.
In a sport where it really doesn't matter who the coach is now, I like those players who are coached well.
Yeah.
Like Steve Kerr and Tyronn Lue. Do you really think they did a lot of coaching? No, they didn't.
I think Steve Kerr did a little more than Tyronn, but like
Okay, so Tyronn Lue did nothing and
Yeah.
Steve Kerr did almost
a
nothing.
little bit. Yes.
The point I like to make is when you look at this draft, there are players who could be something and could not be something.
Exactly.
I like what Ainge did if he actually goes and gets a player. Young players mean nothing to me right now because
Mhm.
they don't help win championships at all.
Right.
Warriors, their youngest player didn't affect it that much. Cavs, youngest player didn't affect it that much. They're all people mid to late 20s who are affecting the game.
Yeah.
Same with San Antonio. Same with Boston. Same with Washington. So what else do you want me to say? Young players mean nothing to me.
I mean,
I hate to hate on my man.
no. I get
But
where you're going.
Cal ruined the NCAA and he helped ruin basketball. There's no reason a 19 and 20-year-old kid is going to do
I
anything.
could totally see that, and
He did. He
and
ruined the league.
I get it 100% what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. The thing that does suck is that when they're coming out at a younger age, it takes them longer for them to get ready. Exactly what you're saying. You know, it takes like 4 or 5 years for a freshman out of college to be an impact player usually. But when you take somebody who went to school for a little bit longer, they understand the game a little more. They get a grasp of how to be a team player more.
You know
than
what?
when
You
they
know
were in
who
high
I'd really
school
look
and
at
whatever.
more in this draft
Yeah.
would be Marcus Keene. And I know that's weird coming from 2 Central guys here, but he averaged 30 points last year and he's a junior. I'm going to look at experience more than talent here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the Duke guy, Kennard,
Yeah.
he's good.
He will be. Yeah.
And he will be good.
Yes.
He's got experience
Yeah.
over talent.
Yeah.
I would look more in basketball at experience over talent. I would
The
look
only
more for
thing-
Marcus Keene or Kennard instead of freshmen.
The only thing that, and I love Marcus Keene. obviously, but like the only thing that I would see with him is because he went to a MAC school. That's the only thing that would hurt him, I would say.
I don't think it
Even
matters.
with the experience, because he didn't really have much of experience of going to a big tournament, knowing what it's like to be in a championship
one
ring.
thing,
You know,
which is why I want him.
yeah,
Improvement.
yeah, for sure.
His averages in every single mentor of the game went up, including wins for his team.
Oh yeah,
I don't care if it's a MAC school. I don't care if it's a WAC school. Because a lot of good players come from MAC and WAC schools.
oh no, that's totally.
But the point of the matter is I like to see improvements. This is something you and I study very much, and that is NBA and NFL drafts. We like to look at players come from improvements. We like to look at players who could mean something to the teams right away.
We like what the future of the sport is going to look like.
Right.
Exactly.
We study this probably more than, I'll say, football and baseball.
Oh, I got basketball.
Well,
for sure.
But you look at the future of it more than basketball.
That's why I like the Sixers so much.
This is the one thing we study very well.
Yes.
So I think we can, I'll say, semi-experts in it. I like to see improvement. I like to see experience. All right? A guy who's technically 18 years old still,
Yeah.
who's played 1 year with the team, who didn't win anything, isn't going to show me much. I think that should be proven.
Yeah,
And
that's
you love these 76ers saying, who's your leader?
Joel Embiid.
Is he a top 10 leader?
I think he would be.
No, now.
Now?
No.
I'm
okay.
saying I'm giving him time, just like the whole team. You're giving him a year. I want 3 years, see where we're at mid-third year.
Well, the NBA is a very weak-oriented league, in my opinion. If
Okay.
you look at it as a whole. It's not fun to watch, in my opinion.
I think it's fun.
It's my least favorite four out of the four sports right now. And I have so many fond, amazing memories involving basketball since when I was a kid. But it's boring to watch.
I
it's-
still love watching it. I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
Out of all the four sports, you're going to pick a random NBA game out of any other random games. I'm not saying a team you like. I'm not saying stars. I'm saying random team here, you're going to watch that. The league is awful.
I mean,
How are you going to argue
this?
me that?
This is where we're different. You love the NFL, and we've talked about this. I'm not really gung ho about the NFL.
Right.
I don't
but
really
you
watch
have-
football that much. I like college football a lot. I don't really watch the NFL much, and I don't know why. I want to get into it really bad. I just can't, and I don't know what it is.
There's where our strengths help.
Exactly.
Because you help me get more into basketball, I help you get more into the NFL.
Yep.
And if this was fall right now, we wouldn't have to be thinking for about an hour and a half to 2 hours of topics to talk of every Monday, like I did. It would be bam college, bam NFL, and we both would be great at this show talking about it. Fair?
Yeah.
Instead, I got to think of another topic to talk about. One, because we don't want to talk about baseball, because we're Tigers fans who are from the state of Michigan,
Oh,
and
no,
they
I
make
would-
us sick.
I'd love to talk about baseball.
I would love to talk about baseball too, but it's overwhelmed by a team that sucks.
Well, I mean, we don't.
And
yeah.
you're making me talk about the 76ers.
I'm not making you. That's just where the discussion happened to go.
You told me we were going to talk about Kevin Durant.
Oh no, we will get to
Last
that.
I checked, he's never played for the 76ers.
No, we're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point
draft
I'm
took
making-
longer than I thought.
The point I'm making is that if you think the NBA is very strong, then that means it doesn't need a lot of improvements. If you think something is strong. If you think a relationship with a person is strong, you don't try to make a lot of improvements.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, this league needs a lot of improvements overall. People, their argument of why the NBA is so great now is the dynasties and the two dynasties. Well, I like to look at a league that's majority of good. And the NFL isn't that either. And the NHL is getting there. No sport right now is majority of good the way you look at it. The
I
only
mean-
one you could argue is college football.
The one thing that I don't love the dynasty. I don't love all that. I just enjoy watching basketball. That's just what it is
I enjoy
for me.
watching it too.
Yeah.
But
So-
my point is, you're saying there doesn't need to be a lot of improvements.
No, I would love it if there was more competition between other individual teams. Like, I would love if the 76ers were great right now and contesting the Cavs, and Boston was actually contesting the Cavs instead of just winning one game barely. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Exactly.
But in my opinion, it needs improvements.
It does.
But then again, I think all sports needs improvements,
Of
and I
course.
think everything in life needs improvements because nothing is perfect.
Yes.
That's just my thought on this. This league could be so much better than it is.
All right, well, if you guys think Jimmy's riled up right now, just wait for this discussion. We already talked about this a little bit. Kevin Durant, got the Finals MVP. I love the guy. You hate the guy.
I don't hate the guy. I never said I hated him.
You dislike the guy.
I dislike the guy.
There we go. You dislike the guy. Sorry, hate's stronger than I thought.
Do I really hate many people?
It sounds like you hate him. Based
I'm
off
not.
how
I'm
we
not a
talked.
hateful person. I'm more of a nice, happy-go-lucky person, and I bring that into the show of talking of hatred that I hate, or dislikeness that I dislike.
You sound like a very happy person on this show all the time.
Good.
Good. Okay. So our discussion that we had about Kevin Durant is, I like him because I think he's a competitor. I think that's why he left. I think he wanted to get that for sure ring, and you hate him because of that.
I don't like people going the easy way out, and I'm going to call it the easy way out, whether you like to agree with it or not. And I think you take me saying things about Kevin Durant the wrong way. Kevin Durant is, one, a great player. Not a good player, a great player.
Yeah.
He, two, is unbelievable when it comes to competition.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And he, three, another good thing I want to give is he has something that the game of basketball doesn't see. That's all around involving height, offense, defense, whatever his weaknesses are, he makes up for. He doesn't have a lot of weaknesses.
He doesn't have many at all.
But when that comes to that, I don't very much like extremely arrogant a-hole athletes. Kevin Durant is an extremely arrogant a-hole athlete. Every press conference where he likes to act like that, if it was anyone else, we would have been mad at him. Look at what they did to LeBron. Kevin Durant and LeBron did the same exact things in most press conferences.
We're not like most people though. Or I'm not like most people anyway.
What's that?
If they're asked about it, they're asked about it.
Yes,
but that's how they live. That's how they are. That's their persona. They're showing their persona.
Yeah, but I like players who show emotion. I like people who show emotion. But
Right.
the fact is, there's a difference between showing emotion and when he called Mark Cuban an idiot in front of everyone. There's a difference between showing emotion and calling reporters an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's one reason I don't.
But
like
was
Kevin
Mark
Durant.
Cuban being an idiot when he said he was?
You can't say that.
I think he was. He said Westbrook wasn't a superstar.
That's not the point
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
It's not, are we arguing if someone's an idiot? Is it okay for someone like that to say an owner's an idiot?
He didn't take the high road. That's just all it was.
It's not
he
about
said
taking
what
the
he
high
was
road.
thinking.
It's being smart.
He said what he was thinking. Taking the high road is being smart. I get where you're going. He wasn't being smart. You don't like the way he acts in post-game interviews. You don't like the way he acts in interviews in general.
No.
I get it.
Okay. 2, I don't like him because he took the easiest way out. He went to the best team.
Yeah. Because he wanted to win.
Cleveland won last year, and he didn't. That wasn't the best team. Golden State was the best team.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to argue it's not a super team because they drafted all these guys. That's fine.
No, they're still a super team.
But the point of the matter is he could have gone anywhere else and tried to beat the best teams. And he didn't. And in my opinion, that just doesn't show a lot of class. It doesn't show a lot of aggravation. It shows, well, I want a ring with the best. So all I can do is just show my ring to everyone, and that's all that matters. And I don't care. It's the equivalent of Michael Jordan playing for the Pistons in 88-89. It's the equivalent of Larry Bird going to the Lakers. It's the equivalent of I just had it. It's when LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne were all on the Heat. If Tony Parker went to the Heat and decided to play point guard, it's all that of the equivalents, and I wouldn't have liked that either.
See,
Just like I wouldn't like if Julio Jones played for the Patriots. Just like I wouldn't like if Mike Trout played for the Astros.
Yep, you brought that up. The thing that the way you're making it sound is that like he just went there and just like didn't do much or anything like that.
I didn't say that.
I know, but that's the way it like sounds like, you know? So if he went there and just didn't do anything, yeah, he would have taken the easy way, but he went there and I mean, yes, he did take the easy way. I said that wrong. He did take the easy way.
If that's how you feel,
But
that's fine.
he balled out in the finals. And when he was on the team, he still played great. He played great basketball
That's
this year.
fine. He did play great basketball.
So if he would have went and just played terrible, yeah, he would have been terrible. But he's still a competitor because he's still playing his heart out. He's still working his butt off.
That's fine.
You know?
I don't have to respect him. I don't. All I can do is acknowledge that he's a great basketball player.
Yeah.
Win with another team.
Okay.
Beat the best. That's fine.
That's fine. So
I'm confused why you don't think this is as big of a deal as I do. Because you and I are very much alike as people.
Mhm.
I'd say we have a lot of similarities, but
Yeah.
I don't get why we differ in this. Because Yes, he played great. And yes, he's an amazing player.
Yeah.
But my point is, he didn't show what he could do on another team. Yes, he played amazing in the finals. But you have another abundance of weapons that you have to compete against. And most of the time, that involves the fear of weapons, guarding other weapons, and for you to be the open man and do whatever you can. Like, I don't think it's that amazing. I didn't.
Oh, averaging 35 points in the finals?
No, you're on the Warriors.
See, you keep saying you're on the Warriors, and, like, you don't – the defense for the Cavs didn't play great.
No.
Let's be fair with that.
No.
Okay? And then in the last 2 games, I think the Cavs defense played pretty well.
They played decent.
Yeah, compared to the rest of the series.
Yes.
Like they talk about all the time, you got a bunch of players on that team that can't even guard each other. That's how skilled these 2 teams are. But the thing that I mentioned it before, for the defensive aspect of things, you need to be able to match up. You need to be able to guard anybody, which Kevin Durant pretty much did. He guarded LeBron for a little bit. There were moments where he had mixed matches where he had to guard pretty much anybody that the pick and roll went to, whoever he had to switch on for whatever reason. He still guarded him. He still scored, even though he was open for a majority of the thing because the defense of the Cavs started to break down and left the lane open for him. That's mental breakdown on the other team, yeah, but that's also Kevin Durant being able to acknowledge that that's what's happening. I'm going to take these points right here, you know?
Do you want to know what his average was in the regular season this season for points?
Yeah, give it to me.
25.
Okay. And
what was his average last year?
30s, right?
28.2.
I get where yes. He was also hurt for a little bit.
That much of a major difference.
No.
Between the seasons.
No.
I get he was hurt. I get he didn't play as much. But I think that adds into my argument.
Well, he was getting used to a new team also.
He missed double-digit games.
Yeah.
And that still meant nothing. Yes, he played amazing in the finals, but that's 5 games. Over an 82-game period, he played great. He was able to miss a bunch of games, and it meant no difference. None. It doesn't matter. I can acknowledge the fact that he's great, but I don't respect just taking the easy way out. I don't respect going to the easy team.
All right. I think we're probably just going to keep saying the same thing back and forth, right?
I understand your point. Do you understand mine?
Yeah, we both get each other's
All right,
points.
we're done
I think everybody's got it.
Now I get to wait and watch the Warriors win the next basketball season and just not care for most of the season again.
That's fine. What did you want to talk about Colin Kaepernick?
All right, so to get into another subject here, this is very weird because I have different reactions to this altogether. And I want to talk about Colin Kaepernick because I think it's gotten to a point where it's very weird.
Yeah.
I think weird's the right word for it.
Perfect.
This league, the National Football League, and yeah, it's my favorite sport to watch. It's my favorite sport to cover. It's my favorite sport to write about. My favorite sport to talk about. It's overall an unbelievable sport to gaze at. Is that fair?
For you, yeah.
For most of Americans.
Yes.
Okay. The point I want to make is it's overall fun most of the time.
Okay, yeah. I would, yes.
Okay. But there comes a time where seriousness gets in the way of all sports. And I think most of the time it gets overlooked based on fun. And I think the league has had a problem overlooking this. Because Kaepernick, he started out as a backup in San Francisco. And he, due to an injury, got a way to go to the Super Bowl. And he was a play away from becoming a Super Bowl champion. And he ended up playing for a couple more years, and he did decent. And, of course, his numbers aren't amazing. But when you look at his numbers, they are starter caliber. There's no way around that. And there's people who are getting on teams that don't make sense. Austin Davis, Mike Glennon. He's clearly better than those two. But when it comes down to it, people hate what he did involving the national anthem and kneeling down. And I hate it as much as anyone. I disrespect He was disrespectful for many ways, and I don't like what he did. But I think, in a very weird sense, I think he learned his lesson. And I think that's why I think it's time for people to start talking about it and getting to other sense of that happened, it's done. This league took back Michael Vick, Greg Hardy, and was about to take back Ray Rice. There wasn't video proof. So all these people are showing me now is that what Kaepernick did, which I want to make a point that he donates to charity, runs a lot of charities, stands up for a lot of rights, and believes in his cause.
And to be fair, it's not like a terrible cause or anything. It's just the way he went about it.
My point is, I think we overlook the bad in this scenario. What he did, I didn't like, but when it comes down to it, I think we're putting this in the same conversation as animal abuse, as drugs, as drug dealing, as child abuse,
for just speaking
domestic
your mind.
violence.
And all he's doing is speaking his mind.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I want to make a point that the longer we don't let Kaepernick in the league, based on this,
the worse it's gonna get.
Well, no, it just means that people care about what he did and the way he did it more than women's rights, more than child's rights, more than anything involving humanity.
It's the NFL.
We have domestic violence all the time, and people get suspended a game or two or a couple games or whatever.
For the exception of Ray Rice, who had video proof. That's
the point I'm making is this guy will most likely not be signed.
Right.
Because of speaking his mind. And I hated it. I hated every single second because I think you have to respect the country and respect patriotism.
Of course. No, I totally get what you're doing with that. It makes a lot of sense. Or it doesn't make a lot of sense, I should say. I heard a lot of people talking about this, how it's weird that he's not being signed. And instantly I thought to myself, so people can be in the NFL after they abuse another human, but he can't speak his mind.
This is why I want to talk about this, is that I think they need a reality check.
Yeah. 100%.
It's sad, in a way, that people can get away with things based on what they did, but he can't get away with something and trying to better himself and better others.
Honestly, I think literally the NFL embodies what greed is. They're looking at people who get more ratings, sell jerseys, stuff like that. Kaepernick started to sell more jerseys, actually, when he was after his downfall of not being so good, and then he came back, did the whole knee thing, which, yes, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about the issue anymore because I agree with you. It was terrible, and I hated every second of it, but I think he's learned his lesson.
Yeah,
he's not going to start.
Exactly.
He's going to be a backup.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we joked about it a couple weeks ago with the phone call of saying Seattle will use him. That's what he's going to be if he gets a job. Right. He'll just be used as a show pony.
He's too good of a backup to be on our team. That's what Seattle said.
And it's weird because you have Ben Roethlisberger, who was accused of a lot. I don't know if he was ever convicted, but he's a starter just fine. He's worshipped in Pittsburgh.
And it was like every other year there was another accusation of something.
And I know for a fact people will look at me and say, oh, well, you can't put them both together. Well, now you have to put them both together. Because you have people playing who are violent, who are terrible human beings, and you have someone not playing based on trying to do something to better the world.
But the only difference between those two players that you brought up is Big Ben is really good. Was really good, I should say. And Kaepernick is just pretty okay.
I don't think that matters anymore.
No, I think that's what the NFL is about, though. If it was a different scenario where somebody else did something like, did you hear the Michael Bennett? Did you hear the story about him, about the book that he wrote?
Mm-hmm.
So you know that whole thing about how he's talking about the NFL, pretty much what we're saying, essentially.
Explain that real quick.
The whole Michael Bennett thing, from what I remember, I didn't read it, but it was talked about on a radio show, was that he has written a book about the NFL, his life, his time in the NFL to date. And for those of us who know Michael Bennett, he's a great player. He does his job. He knows what his job is. But he is doing a similar thing with Kaepernick, where he is just coming out and saying there's an issue with how the NFL is run. Essentially what we said is greedy, and that they want money, and they don't want personality in the NFL. They don't want the players to have a personality. They want them to essentially be robots. They have no ability to just be themselves. And that's honestly one thing that he's 100% right on. He's dead on with that. He pretty much says exactly what I would want to say about it. I want to see more celebrations. I want to see the players show creativity in who they are. I like the celebrations where it's yourself. Like when Victor Cruz was doing the salsa dance, I liked that. That was him. You know, he did his own thing. I would love to be able to see more of that, but like Michael Bennett says, the NFL wants you to go out and play and not do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it is the no fun league.
Yeah, exactly.
I think more of my point is that a lot of people will continue to complain about Kaepernick for a long time, but at the end of the day, does it really matter what he did? No. There's been way worse people. There's been way worse scenarios. I look at Josh Brown, who was a kicker for the New York Giants, who allegedly punched his wife.
He came out and said it himself that he did, yeah.
He got a game suspension.
Mm-hmm.
New York kept him.
Yeah.
Kaepernick, however, he raises money for charity. He kneels down during a song, and people hate him. Other players joined in on his protest. They all have jobs.
Yeah.
They all keep their jobs.
It even stretched out to the women's national team.
They all have jobs.
Yeah.
This one man won't have a job because he started something that people didn't like, and that is change.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, change is sometimes good. I respect tradition. I respect history, but sometimes change is good. Maybe he had a point. I don't know, but I think that's all over now because the protest isn't going to continue.
No.
All it's going to do is be done.
And we'll remember it as something that happened, but that's about
How
all it's going to be.
will we remember it?
I'll remember it as, I mean, if he doesn't get back into the league at all, I'll remember it as the time the NFL showed their true colors.
I think it makes the NFL look extremely terrible.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought it up and you just said it.
Yeah.
Because, as I've said before, it's an amazing sport and it's very fun to watch for most sports fans and for most people, but it shows the dark side of the NFL at most times, where they won't like a guy because he spit on patriotism. That's what it is. But at the end of the day, he had to have learned his lesson now. He's been unsigned, and it's going to be July. When you're unsigned in July, that means you're going to start the season 95% sure a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And you will be picked up based on someone being injured or someone being the worst quarterback in the history of their franchise.
Right.
That's it. Every other person we've talked about involving violence was rehired. What's the biggest deal about this if you can overlook beating women and beating children? You have people who have committed child abuse come back into the league. You have people who have committed domestic violence come back in the league. You have people who have done such worse than this come back into the league, but people can't overlook this. And like I said, I'm sick to my stomach at what he did, but at the same time, he's learned his lesson. Get over it. It's done. It's time to keep going in a different route.
And quite honestly, when I think about the idea of what he kneeled for, it's kind of similar to what LeBron is starting to do with some of the Nike commercials.
Oh, people in other sports do
Yeah,
it. They just do it in different ways.
Exactly. If he would have done it the right way, maybe we'd be talking differently about this. It's the way he did it, which sucks. It's sad. But it'd be like getting rid of LeBron because he's speaking his mind on something that is a big issue.
In the late 60s, we had a lot of athletes who were African American who all stood together as black athletes not going to Vietnam because they didn't feel it was right to fight for the country because the country didn't fight for them.
Mm-hmm.
They were trashed on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they all had a point.
Yeah.
And eventually, some of them got their jobs back.
Exactly.
The main one is Muhammad Ali, and he didn't fight for a while. But he got to fight again. Do you honestly think he's going to be able to play again? Based on playing ability, you have to admit he's good
playing
enough
ability,
to play.
I think he would be good enough to play. You'd think he'd have a spot in the league as at least a backup. Honestly.
Yes. He should be starting at some places.
Like the Jets, maybe?
The Jets, the Bills,
Yeah.
the Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
I can think of
you can keep going with
places
that.
where you could be competitive.
Exactly.
To start. And I think it's really ridiculous that we don't look at it as a competitive nature to start. It looks as if We don't care about someone trying to look good. And overall, this is going to make this league look terrible. It's going to have a lot of happy fans saying, we got him out of here because he was trying to ruin something. Yeah, but at the same time, he was trying to start something.
You're going to piss off a lot of people doing that.
You think you're going to piss off a lot of people, him not being in the league?
Yeah.
I think so. I think at the end of the day, this showed a really bad and tragic way of looking at this. And the reason I want to talk about it is it's done, it's over with, and I don't get why people haven't signed him based on heroics. You can't try to tell me that committing domestic violence is ever going to change the world for good. But those people gotten back in the league. He tried to change the world for good, and he's done for. There's a good chance he will never play again. It has nothing to do with playing ability anymore. It's pretty obvious. For the rest of this season, you'll look at people get jobs who you won't understand. There'll be a lot more domestic violence issues. There'll be a lot more drug suspensions. There'll be a lot more things you don't understand from the NFL. And I think that's why when I was trying to say it's fun to watch and everything, this puts in your head of why you don't like it as much. Is that fair?
Probably, yeah.
Yes. It has a lot of negative influences on why people don't as much respect the NFL. And I understand that. And I think it shows what people really care about. People care about what they like. People don't care about what other people don't like. It's more easier to say, I like this and I'm going to keep liking this, instead of, I don't like that, we need to change something about that. A lot gets overlooked in sports, and a lot gets overlooked in humanity involving sports. And the politics and business behind sports is a nature that no one understands because it never will get changed. This is one of those things that will never get changed. This is one of those, at the time I hated it, but now I look at the world and go, do we really need to care about this? Really? Sports is, overall, people get influenced by it, and it's a great way to change people's minds, like music, like movies, like TV shows. At the end of the day, people say, well, it's just sports. But it affects a lot of people in life. I don't like that comment. I don't like when LeBron said it. It's just basketball. When you show competitive nature, it changes things. When you show how to be a role model, it changes things. Sports changes way more people.
And that's the word that I wanted you to say. It was role model.
Role model, yes.
It's what these people are. When they put on the helmet or they get ready to take that shot or dunk or whatever, they're a role model. They're putting themselves on a big, grand stage. And I don't know about you, but you're probably a role model to your sister. I'd assume so.
I would think so.
I'm a role model to my little cousins and sister, too. You want to set the best example for them.
Right.
You want to be somebody that they look up to and like, hey, I kind of want to be like that. Or I like who he is. That's who I want to emulate them. That's what we try to do. We have the people that we like. We try to emulate them. And that's why we're doing this podcast, right?
We try to be.
We try to be.
It looks as if people don't care about the good anymore.
No.
I'm hoping that the league changes about caring about the good anymore, because it's one thing that I always congratulate the MLB because they do a lot of things right, in my opinion.
They do.
They suspend a lot of guys for a long time.
Exactly.
2 games isn't going to do anything.
No.
It's most of the time 2 weeks.
And they know that.
When you suspend people for 50 or 100 or a full season, people who actually deserve it.
Yeah. Then they have all that time to sit back and think, wow, I really messed up. I could be out on the field playing right now.
Right.
And that's what every athlete wants to be able to do. Unfortunately, we're on a time limit. We could do this all day. But I think that we covered all the bases. We talked about what we wanted to talk about.
All right, yes. Join us next week. Cameron gives me his top 15 reasons to change sports in case he can do a better job than me. I thought I did a pretty good job last week, but we'll see if he can do a better job than me. We finally start talking about baseball. I'm going to start talking about the Tigers, and I'm going to give you a little bit of AL wrap-up while Cameron gives a little bit of NL wrap-up. And we will end our discussion based on another humanity question that I'll give to the listeners.
Ooh, he's already ready for the next one.